Pa-pa. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another lesson. As I said before, in the afternoons, I am going to be streaming over here to TikTok, to YouTube. So get your sketchbooks ready, get your pens ready, get your thingies, whatever you feel like drawing with ready, and let's do some doodles together. Hi. Do. All right. So I don't expect many people to show up to this stream because it is not on the other platform. So we will have a few minutes of probably no one in the stream. So I'm just going to go recapping what we learned earlier today so that I can give you guys an idea of what we are going to be learning. If you are joining us over here on TikTok or no, not TikTok, on YouTube, make sure to like the stream so more people join us. So if there's one person, hey, just hit that heart button. If there's 11 people hit that heart button. We're gonna get 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 40 people. And that is how it works. Why does it look so grainy here? It's always grainy on YouTube. Like, I don't know what it does or why the camera has that, but there's like a certain film. Like I'm at like a weird distance or something. Anyways. Actually, hold on. I know why it is. That's because the light outside. There you go. Better. Okay, so what we learned today earlier, we were walking over the concept of sushis and how that can be applied to learn how to draw legs really easy. Right? We were drawing and we were playing around with posing and we were showing examples of how you can use this to your advantage to get used to drawing poses a little bit more cool, more deliberate. And how you don't really need any perspective knowledge. Well, you don't really need any anatomy knowledge. All you really need to do is to be able to draw two little shapes coming from a circle like little horns. If you set a horn, you can set like a dot, and then once you find these two little entry points, anything that you connect to there will eventually be able to be a leg by simply drawing a two there. So drawing legs in themselves is actually really quite easy. Feliz Dia de los Muertos! Feliz Dia de los Muertos a todos mis amigos mexicanos. If you guys did not know, I am Mexican. So we celebrate this awesome thing called Dia de los Muertos, in where we like decorate all these awesome, beautiful skulls made out of candy a lot of the times. And we celebrate by eating them because we love our things. And we also offer ofrendas to the dead. So to our previous ancestors, if anybody's watched the movie Coco, you're supposed to set a little ofrenda, like a candle and some flowers and stuff like that, just to remember the fallen ancestors that we've had in the past. So that is something that we do in Mexico over during Dia de los Muertos. Yeah. Dia de los Muertos essentially is the Day of the Dead. So it's like the day that you like celebrate and you like, like think back at your, relatives and stuff like that. And then, it's just a nice little celebration for people that aren't there anymore. So hello everybody of YouTube. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing well. Like I said earlier today over on TikTok, it was that in the afternoons, whenever I stream, I might as well stream to YouTube, right? Like, I don't give you guys enough love as is because I forget sometimes to upload videos. So might as well just have a constant thing with you guys as well here. So I like that idea. So from now on, my afternoon or evening doodles will come to this platform. I am doing quite well today. I'm doing okay. I got to go to the gym. I got to work out a little bit. I got to do a lot of thinking and a lot of like introspective work that I don't normally get to do because I normally don't feel up for it. So today was a very productive day, and I think I overcame a couple barriers that I wanted to get over. So that being said, I do feel quite productive, and I wanted to draw a lot today. So I'm going to be doing that, and I'm going to be sharing most of it with you guys. So something that we have been working a lot with lately has been posing. We have been learning and talking about what simple ways are to learn how to pose your characters. We talked a little bit about overlapping shapes and how overlapping shapes essentially help you build the knowledge that you need to be able to do things like legs. And this is how perspective works. This is how perspective works within the body, right? It's within fingers, it's within legs, it's within everything that you draw. And the better that you are at drawing these things in perspective, the easier it is to draw things that are moving in perspective. So if you get good at foreshortening by just connecting circles that are bigger to smaller, connecting the edges, learning your overlapping lines, you can very easily learn how to draw legs, limbs, buildings, and things like that in perspective really, really easy. So that is something that we learned yesterday, and how to learn to draw bodies twisting and stuff like that. What barriers did you break through? Ooh. Okay, so let me explain to you how my brain sees things. Whenever I'm drawing, right? Whenever I'm drawing, I normally see things like circles. I see them with a little bit more volume than other people. And a simple sphere, by just simply dividing it with a circle inside, I start seeing a bunch of different things, right? I start seeing volume by seeing surfaces. I can start mapping the sides of it, front, back. And then if I intersect these, I can even come up with north, south, west, east, left, right, whatever, right? If you learn how to actually visualize your elements like this, you can get really far. The other way of seeing it is that if you draw a circle inside, you get the surface area for the entirety of your element. So you can draw things coming out from there, and it's gonna look like something is extruding from there. You know, this is how we draw flowers. This is how we draw things like, you know, things like that come from understanding that you take your basic shape and you have guidelines by drawing a circle inside, and you can do them every so often. And then you can get petals of different sizes, different lengths, stuff like that. Right? So you can play around with concepts like that really, really simply by learning that basic concept. Now, plants are going to be a little bit easier for you. But these concepts like this is how you gotta aim to see your shapes. And as you start getting more and more complex with these, you start getting more ability to apply those to things that you really want to learn to draw. Kind of like eyes, mouths, right? Things like that come from understanding how to map one side to the other via the surface. So if you actually understand the concept of perspective, even at a basic level, you're going to be much better off than just trying to draw everything from style. Because now this is going to allow you to draw things like eyes from different perspectives. Really easy, right? Here, let me flip it so you guys know what I was drawing. The more that you get comfortable with drawing volume for your shapes, the easier it is to rotate faces regardless of how much detail you have in them. Right? Understanding these basic shapes and how they rotate, how these guidelines can give you your mapping, later on become the guidelines that you're going to use to facilitate things like the jaw, things like the neck, things like the connecting points to the body, and how everything kind of fits like a puzzle together in order to be able to work. Everything has a connecting point and everything has a guideline that can help you get to the next part. You just need to pay attention to where they are and how they work. But everything is connected and nothing is left to guessing if you pay attention to how everything is structured. Nothing has to be left to guessing. Everything you draw, be it going back in space or going forward in space, foreshortening, length, volume, all that stuff comes from just understanding how things connect and how things have volume. I can draw through my shape and find my other leg really easy because I have experience playing with this, right? I need to know where this other arm is. So if this arm is connected at the edge of the collarbone, which is this one, at the edge of that collarbone, that is where my arm is going to come down. And then my first section is going to be right at the edge of my rib cage. And then the other part is going to come down and be the same length as this one. So I can have a lot of fun moving that around anywhere I want, drawing it in any style that I want, because I know where it's supposed to connect. The knowledge that I have from knowing that allows me to be more creative. So that is why taking the time to understand this stuff to an expert level is so important. I made a friend to my dad. Oh, what did I say? Are you in the USA? Are you still willing to teach sessions in school? Yeah, absolutely. My personal goal, right, is to be able to teach people in person and also teach people online so I can reach the entire world, right? But I want to teach a small group of people in a classroom type of session, especially when like they're college. Especially, I would love to teach illustration students or animation students because I have a feeling that with my tutelage, I can make some people incredibly, incredibly knowledgeable in their fields and they would succeed. And having a one-on-one ability to teach these people would be so incredibly important to me to be able to do that, right? So if I manage to get a teaching job anywhere in the world, if someone is willing to give me a job that is gonna pay the bills, right, and let me live there for a little bit, I will be more than happy to teach art for you guys. So I'm just waiting for the right offer to come in, right? I'm just waiting for a offer to come in, honestly. And one day I'll have enough accolades, I'll have enough credit to my name as a teacher that people will offer me these things. I'm one of those weird people that can kind of manifest things and they just happen, right? Like whenever I set my mind to something, be a good pool player or want to be an artist and I want to be a teacher, whatever. I'm that I put the ADHD that I have to good use. Right? Everything that I actually like focus on tends to be get accomplished, but a lot of other things get sacrificed in the process. Right? Like a lot of things get sacrificed, but things get done. So that's why I'm successful in YouTube and successful in social media. Is because I'm obsessive. The reason that I'm obsessive is because I want to really make this work, right? Like this is a very important thing for me, so I want to make sure that I succeed in it. So I spend all my free time and resources doing it so that I can continue doing it, right? And I'm not doing it out of trying to be famous. I'm not trying to do all that. I just want to teach for the rest of my life. That is it. That's all I want as an end all to my life and career. I just want to teach because I think that's where I can make the most change in the world. How should the school contact you? Just email is fine, or social media, like whichever way. I'm easy to find. It's just RODGON the artist. I'm quite well known around the world. It's a beautiful thing, honestly. Like knowing I got recognized the other day. I went to Hooters with a business partner that wants to do some animation stuff, right? So we just decided to go to Hooters. I haven't been to Hooters in a long time. So I was like, hey, fuck it, let's go get some wings. And inside of there, someone's like, oh, you're Rod. And I was like, what? 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 No. Nah, it's the first time someone recognizes me outside of a convention or something. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, you teach, right? I was like, oh my God, it happened. It happened. It happened. And then we were so happy. We were like, weren't we? Yeah, we were. We were like, ah, ah. But inside we were like, hey, yeah, that's us. But inside we're like, ah. Get out of here, Milky. Yes, we were like that. But it was really, really cool because then like we got like free, like I got a free soda. And it was really cool. I don't know. That was the first time that it's ever happened to me outside of a convention or like some event that has like some sort of art related thing to it. It was beautiful. It was just a wonderful feeling. Like, so even though it is nice, I don't do it for that feeling. The reason that I do a lot of the stuff that I do is so you guys don't have to actually go to college for it, right? The reason that I try to teach you guys this stuff is so you guys don't have to pay the amount of money that other people have paid to go to fucking art school. Like, that's just the reason. Like, sorry for the cussing and sorry for the language, but it really is that, like, annoying to me that people spend their life savings just learning how to be creative. And most of the time, that education isn't even all that worth it, like what happened to me. And I had to end up spending another 20 years of my life trying to figure out the very basics again, right? Because the school didn't teach me that. So, what I do, my channel, my persona, my identity outside of me being myself is to actually try to help everyone out there that doesn't want to have to pay so much money to go to art school, but you still want to do it. You know, if you have the drive, I want to give you guys the tools to be able to do it. The tools that I didn't have when I was trying to do it. King Cobra, hi Rodgon, just joined the stream. Can you please show how to break down the backside glutes into basic shapes when mapping a character? Ooh, okay. So the booty, how do you draw the booty from behind? Okay, so there is one method that I really like, and it's the heart method, right? You draw your rib cage, and then wherever that little divot would be in the back of your back or your rib cage, you draw a heart. If you do this for the bottom part, you can cut off the little nubbies of the heart and you have yourself a booty. You also have your hips where you can actually bring out your legs from. You get these little circles, and if you get a circle cut out into your body, then you can connect a cylinder really easy, right? If you have that connecting point at an angle coming from the body, anything you draw from there that is a cylinder can be construed or turned into an actual leg. Anything that comes from a cylinder or a circle can be made into a cylinder. And that is what makes legs really easy to draw into space. That is how you learn how a cylinder works in the concept of drawing legs. Okay, so that is essentially it. And for the booty muscles, after you have that heart and you have your rib cage, remember the back is your spine. Your spine is going to hit to the top of your rib cage. You're going to have two little wingy parts for your back shoulders. And then you have your bones. From here, this extends all the way to where your shoulders go. And this is where your arm would start. This is also the back of your neck, so this is where your spine comes up onto the skull. The skull works like this. Your spine is in the back, and then your skull comes forward, in front of everything, right? You end up with a situation like this. Look at where your spine is and look at where your head is. That's where you get all that difference when you're drawing your basic shapes like this, okay? This is what you're drawing. Now, this connecting point is the hard part for people when they're drawing anatomy. So when you're thinking about this shape, you're thinking about this. But when you're thinking about this part, you also have to think about the bones in there. So your neck is going to connect to the back of your spine, or the back of your rib cage, because your spine's in the back, right? That's so simple, but it's so silly. But your spine is in the back of your rib cage, so your neck connects in the back of your rib cage. That sounds silly, but that's just what works. Then you have this little area right here in which you have your collarbone, right? So you have to account for this little area that has the front side being your collarbone, the bone that goes like this, right, on your rib cage. And then you have to account for the backbone, that is the one that we drew over here. And they kind of close up in the top part of your body like a little tiny triangle, diamond, whatever you want to call it. I like to think of this like an eyeball. If I think about the top part like an eyeball, I get my spine with the highlight. I just add that circle just for shits and giggles, because that doesn't really mean anything. But I like knowing where my spine is so that I can rotate my head around my spine. Like, it's easier to rotate that and know that any of the space here, this spacing right here is just the skin or the muscles connecting back to the collarbone from your ears and from the side. So if you think about this whole section in that particular way, draw an eyeball with a front and the back, a little angular. Think about it like a highlight right at the top. And that's where your spine comes up like a cylinder. And you could make this cylinder nice and big and come up with the depth that you need for your heads. Now, this might not make much sense to you right now, but let me show you what it looks like in perspective. If you're drawing this from the side, you're drawing your spine and you're drawing your cylinder coming up. And you essentially come up with the entirety of your head shape like that too. So it's just another way to understand the face and understand how the jaw works and how everything would end up being connected. No, it's not necessarily going to be everybody's cup of tea, and sometimes it is a little complicated to visualize that with all those lines. But with a little bit of practice, it becomes a really good technique. Andre Colon, are you just streaming here or still on TikTok? Yeah, I do it on both now. Funny thing, a drummer I follow on TikTok and YouTube is now focusing mostly on YouTube because the bids have more permanence and longevity. Possibly a good idea for you too. Yeah, that's. I started deciding that I'm going to be doing streams in the morning for TikTok because I get a bigger audience there. So that's going to be still my main way to acquire more followers. But then in the afternoons, I'm going to be doing them on YouTube just because I want to give you guys a little bit more stuff to have, you know, like you guys are like my OGs. You guys on Instagram are my OGs, and since Instagram is kind of dead, you know, it's has to be come down to my followers over here, or the Peep Army. But yeah, you can draw a head from a cylinder really easy, and it's so quick. Like it's so ridiculously quick. It's the thing. It becomes really intuitive once you start thinking about it in forms of basic shapes and triangles. I feel like my art has come such a long way since learning from your lessons. Oh, you guys are too sweet to me today. You guys are so nice. I'm bigger on TikTok. Yeah. Yeah, but that's not everything to me. Right? Like the whole concept of it just being like, oh, I'm bigger there. I would have started TikTok if I would have thought like that, because I would have thought like, hey, I'm bigger on Instagram. Why am I going on TikTok? Why am I going on any other program? Like I already have some sort of notoriety somewhere else. You have to expand because sometimes the software, the apps, they just die, right? Like popularity just dies after a couple years. It hasn't happened yet. Like the MySpace effect hasn't happened to Facebook yet, but it's getting there. It's getting there, and it's gonna get there at some point. The same thing's gonna happen to Instagram, and the same thing's gonna happen to TikTok at some point. You know, there's gonna be just something different that people focus on, and that's perfectly fine. But you have to learn to adapt with it as you are. You know, like if you're a designer, if you're an artist, if you're a person that actually draws for a living and you want to actually keep up with it being your job, then you have to actually understand that it's going to come with a lot of movement and a lot of parallel like shifting to other platforms just so that you can actually maintain that momentum that you might have gotten somewhere else, right? And if you happen to be lucky enough to be able to be one of those people that like innovate in that platform, well, shit, then you're set. But that's very unlikely for everybody, and it's not necessarily something that happens with everyone. You know, so it's not also something you can count for. Why not try simulcast? Yeah, I guess I could do that. I just haven't set up I know the name of the company too. I have it right here. Streamyard. I believe it's Streamyard that allows you to stream to multiple devices or to multiple platforms. I just haven't set it up. Like for a person that draws every single day and is incredibly like intuitive about like helping other people out, I don't really help myself out really much. You know, like, and that's something that I struggle with a lot. Like anything that is to my benefit, I tend to just like be like, whatever, put it aside. Let's do it later. It doesn't need to be done. Blah 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 blah. And I don't know. I honestly think I just need a super bossy like manager lady to like tell me what to do, because it has to be a woman, because if a guy tries to tell me something to do, I just won't do it. Like I don't know, man, I've had a lot of bosses and I just can't stand it when like male bosses tell me what to do. I just can't. But if it's a woman, I'm like, okay, sure. I'm just that person. So I don't know, that's why I need like a super do you guys know the show Monk? Like, I hope you guys know the show Monk, because there's the assistant in season one of Monk is essentially what I need. I just need someone to like be like, okay, Rod, we need to get this shit out today. It's like, oh, but I'm gonna be like distracted and tell you like a quadrillion reasons why I can't. And then you're like, no, okay, here, have your coffee. All right, your peanut butter sandwich. Okay, cool. Let's get started. All right, and I'll just do it because I'm like a machine. I'm not a very well-oiled machine anymore, but I'm a machine, and I just draw, and I love to draw, and I just love to create, and I just love, and I can endlessly do it endlessly, right? I'm one of those people that just has like endless ability to just draw all day long and be happy about doing it. So I think my technical place in, if I went into animation, if I decided to go into animation, if I wanted to like take a job into animation, my role would probably be either I don't know about character design. Um, Even though I am awesome at character design, I don't think that would be the role that I would like to play, right? That's not something that I've like always coveted all that much. It's just something I like to do, but it's just not something that I want to take as a job. So I don't want to do that. What would I take on as a job in an animation studio if I wanted to take a job there? Well, you know what? You know what? You know those like the art of books? All those the art of, and then like they have like all the concept work. I know that that's visual development, and that's very similar to like the areas of character design and stuff like that, right? But I don't know. I think I have the concept ability and technical skills to be able to create entire worlds now. I think I would love at this point in time to be able to put my skills up against uh, talented like industry professionals, right? Like I would love a friendly competition with industry professionals like illustrators, animators, storyboard artists, stuff like that. I would love it just to see, just for shits and giggles, like some art wars or something that's gonna like be quick, something fun, something where people don't get their feelings hurt, stuff like that. And hopefully I can like, since I have a little bit of a platform, I can maybe help other people get noticed too, you know. uh, Worth a thought. How are you so awesome, like just okay, so I'm not awesome because I practice. I'm not awesome because I have natural skill. I'm not awesome because of this. Like, I really don't think myself is awesome, first of all. But let's put that aside and actually think that I am awesome or whatever. If I were, it's mostly because I take a lot of time to understand what I'm drawing. Like each time that I set down a drawing, like a line or a shape or something, I'm constantly thinking of the volume for that shape. So when I'm putting shapes together, it's more so like I'm sculpting, right? I'm feeling like I'm actually on the surface of this thing. So drawing things overlapping just means that I'm adding like silly putty, and I'm just adding extra elements to this. I find one drawing a shape. I can do this at any given point and give myself guidelines that I can use for other sections. The more that you can see and observe things not just going together, but going into space by making them bigger, smaller, even tinier, even really close and tiny or really close and big to get foreshortening, right? All these things together into being able to visualize things with a volume. And when you can do that, you can manipulate a lot of things. When that happens, something as simple as a beanbag can become your best friend, right? Because all these guidelines can give you all these mapping points for other basic shapes, and it's very easy to draw through the beanbag to get to the other parts. So things like cute animals and stuff like that are now a thing of the past. This should be really, really easy. Like once you understand things like this, once you understand just a simple beanbag, you can just not make it a beanbag, but split it in half still to make it more round, and you have the perfect divisions and proportions for a face. Just get the shape the way you want it. And that is how you turn this basic concept of the beanbag into even a face. It could be a body, it could be a rib cage, it could be hands, it could be anything you want, down to actual fingers. Because fingers are essentially just beanbags. Okay? But beanbags that have 3 sections, it's 1 section, 2 sections, and if you want that extra third section, you divide the top one into a third one. So what happens is you have 2 sections to your finger. You have a bottom section and you have a top section. This and this section will roughly be the same distance, but whenever you actually bend your finger all the way, you tend to have a third section. And that section comes from dividing the top one only. So this mid one is always going to be longer. Rodgon is the type of person I need as an art teacher. Yes, I am the person that would organize like drawing sessions, and I would organize galleries, and I would organize everything for my students. Like you have no idea, like I've thought about this idea of being a teacher for so many years that I have curriculums ready to go if the teachers don't have one, or if the school has a shitty one. I have entire curriculums ready to go to be able to explain things better, to teach a better, to like get just better education out there for the people that are paying a shit ton of money to do it, man. Like that is essentially the goal, like just to help out the people that have, so that they don't end up with a shit ton of debt. Like, ugh, like it's the most frustrating thing in the world, man, to see so many people like quit because of debt. That's tough. What am I drawing? I'm just drawing legs and stuff like that. I'm just showing you guys like how volume works on characters and how we use perspective and how simple tricks can give you the guidelines that you need to be able to get that volume, and how volume translates to style with imagination and actual like maybe references at first, you know, but you can draw things like shorts and stuff like that really easy by just learning a little bit of perspective. So the act of knowing perspective is not about learning how to draw buildings. Okay, the act of learning perspective is more so used so that you can understand where your connections of your body work, how your limbs connect to each other, and how to add volume to your drawings without having to do anything else than just enhancing a line. What do I mean by that? Let's say that we wanted this hand right here, we want it bigger. So I can take this basic shape that I drew. I already have the connecting points that I need, right? I already know where it's supposed to go. This is wrist is not going to move. Nothing else is going to move. I can just make this hand bigger by adding volume to it, by adding more you can do to every body part if you get really good at understanding. Every single body part has the ability to be enhanced. But at that point, it does require understanding a little bit more of anatomy and how muscle structures work. But legs, drawing big legs is no different. And drawing things like that, thinner, bigger, for bodies and stuff like that is no different either. Twix the Fox, RODGON Q&A. What is your favorite drawing tool to use? Pen, pencil, oh, my favorite drawing tool is pen. There is something about being able to draw something in pen that is quite satisfying, right? Like it keeps you from thinking that you are invincible, first of all, because you have mistakes all the time, right? But it's just satisfying to get something drawn in a pen. And it gives you nice black lines and they don't smudge. Like the big ones at least don't smudge that much. So if you just learn how to draw with it and like learn how to control the smudgy by like rubbing against a drawing pad or something, ballpoint pen is one of my favorite tools. Can you explain how to simplify the face from reference while keeping likeness? I don't have any extra. I can show you how to come up with the basic landmarks of face. That's going to be the easiest thing for you to understand. I guess that's because I can't really explain likeness unless I have references in front of me. Okay. And we can do that by adding people to the live and then just drawing people and see if they actually stay. We can try that. Actually, no, I don't know how that works here. I know that I can do that on TikTok. I don't know if I can do that here. Anyways, if you want to come up with a mapping system for your face, this is what I do. Wherever you want the middle of your face to be, just draw the middle of your face. So this is gonna be where your eye line is, right? But you're gonna see how easy it is to draw like this. Draw your eye line. These shapes are going to give you the ability to draw a little triangle. Draw the triangle right at the eye line. What is this triangle? I'm going to draw one side with detail and one side the anatomy that it's going to map, okay? So this triangle is essentially going to give us the nose canal area for our nose, right? For our skeletal structure. This is what we are aiming to replicate over trying to draw a certain style. We are trying to find landing points within our actual anatomy that will allow us to see where everything else goes. And the actual nose canal is beautiful because if you follow it up and you follow it down, it gives you really cool landmarks that land exactly where your anatomy falls. If you follow it up, it gives you access to an eye socket. If you follow it around right here and down, it gives you your cheekbones. This is already your eye line, so you already know where your eye is supposed to go, right? And as you learn to stylize this, you can make this really big, you can make this really small, you can change the eye, the way the cheekbone works, you can make it go wider, you can make it go higher, you can make it droop. And this essentially gives you so much flexibility to draw anything you feel like with any styling that you need, and it's really, really cool. So in reality, what you're doing is this. You're creating these little masks, and you're using those little masks to draw your things in the right place with proper anatomy. Ta-da! Saying I can only draw with references. RODGON, can you draw a fox? Yeah, I can draw a fox. Let me draw a fox. So a fox is gonna be kind of like that, and then they have really long noses, so they would have something like that for a shape. Then they have the chin of the top and the bottom, and I forget if they have really ears, but I think they have dark ears. Gonna give them some fur by changing the texture of this by zigzaggies. And this is gonna lead down to a neck. This is gonna be the nose going into where the cheekbones are. Cheekbone over here as well. Give it a dark nose. This is a cylinder, so it's gonna curve this way. I can add my eyes and that little tiny spot that they get at the top. And once we fill it in with a little bit of color, or just cross hatching because I don't have a color handy, we end up with a little fox. Ta-da! Could try to super chat the question, I guess. I have no idea what you guys, what super chat means. I don't really go into YouTube, so I don't know how the chat thing here works. I don't even know how the chat thing works on TikTok. Let's be honest. So I don't know. What are we studying today? Well, I'm just drawing heads. I'm explaining to you guys how the head works, kind of, so that you guys have a better understanding and how to draw it from a cylinder and how that is like incredibly intuitive as opposed to a sphere. Especially if you make it like a noodle. If you make this like a noodle, you can just follow one of these lines right here, right? You can follow one of these lines around about halfway and then go up. If you go around and halfway up, you get the jawline perfectly. It's already given to you. It's going around and up from a cylinder. It just gives you your jawline absolutely perfect. If you split this in half, that's your eye line, and then you can just squish it here. Boom. And then you can decide what type of nose you want, what type of mouth you want, all based on little guidelines that I teach you guys how to use. Oh, thank you. Spirit Retro sent £5. Asked already, alter the cylinder technique you went over on TikTok for male versus female heads. Yes, absolutely. I kind of like that. Oh, cool. So let's have a female head versus a male head. This is what you're going to want to keep together. You're going to keep this in mind. If you want a very masculine head, you're going to have a bigger jawline. So wherever you set your eyes, right? Let's say that you have these two characters and they're going to be completely different. If you set your eyes in the middle, well, let's draw three because I need to show the difference between all three of them. All right, so we have three. If you draw everything in the middle, let's say your eyes in the middle, and you just draw a normal regular jaw, you're going to have a very generic character. It's not going to look old. It's not going to look... The forehead is going to become a little bit bigger, giving you a more youthful look. And as you add more details to this, by having everything a little bit smaller, you have a more youthful characteristics. Now, you can make this jawline really sharp and make it like a really fit person or a comic book character or whatever, but it doesn't have to be necessarily that sharp. It just means that your jaw has to be a little bit smaller. Realm of Solo, thanks for being an awesome teacher. Firstly, you tend to focus on a ton of form and shape pretty often. Do you have lessons on lighting and shadow, or is that part of the contrast lesson? I am formulating the contrast lesson, but I will do a little bit here. Thank you for the donation. I'll do it right here. I'll do some shadow work for you. I have some pencils that I can use. Okay? So I'll do shadow work after I finish doing this, okay? So if you guys are going to donate for a question, please wait until we're done with the next one. That way we don't overlap them, and then we actually have time to explain everybody, okay? Thank you so much for the donations. Yeah, wow, that's just really cool that I can actually just receive donations like that. That's awesome. In TikTok, it takes a while. Like they donate and then they have to go process through them and then everything. So that's really dope. Anyways, if you want to have a more masculine or stronger jawline, move that eye line instead of being in the middle, 1-1, right? A little bit lower, move it a little higher. And that's going to create an illusion of aging, and also it's going to give you the ability to draw a stronger jawline. So it's going to give you a more masculine look, also a more adult look. So you can combine these two things and have somebody that looks old by doing that. If you want somebody that's like really old, like an ancient person, you would take these cheekbones that we draw with that little triangle, and that's going to sag all the way down there. And that is how you draw really, really ancient people. Like sages and stuff like that. So babies are pretty much the same thing, but with less hair and bigger eyes. All right, so let's go over shadows. Who was the person that donated? Hold on. Realm of Solo, thank you so much for the $10 donation. Let's draw shadows. Let's teach you guys how to draw the basics of shadowing and how that applies to an actual head. So yesterday I was playing around with pencil a lot. It was really nice. I got a bunch of pencils in a thrift shop bag that had pencils, and it came with one I really like, the Ticonderoga pencils. These are the ones that I used to use for animation back in the day. So kind of cool to see one in that little pack, and I'm going to get to draw with it a little. So I'm going to draw all these things on Post-its because I wanted to not smudge any of my other stuff. The reason that I don't really normally draw on my sketchbook in pencil is because I like drawing on both sides of my sketchbook. And I don't get to do that because the smudges on it tend to just ruin it and get it all dirty. So let's talk about lighting. The two parts, right? Shadows come in two different variations. Shadows come in, one of them is going to be the one that we're most familiar with, cast shadows. Whenever you are having a light source, let's say we have a light source here for both of them, the cast shadow is the shadow that is going to be created from the object casting it on the ground. That's why it's called a cast shadow. Then the other kind of shadows that we have are form shadows. Form shadows are the soft gradient lights, and that's when, you know, they talk about like the 5 levels of shadows and the 5 stages of shadows and the blah, 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 blah. All those levels of shadows, that's soft shadows. Okay? Those are form shadows. So when you learn how to combine these two, that's how you end up with a more semi-realistic approach to things. So when you have this, let's say you have a basic little face, a nose, some eyes, and we use our little mask method to come up with that, right? Eyebrows, eyes, the nose, and the simple mouth. Let's say we have that on our face. How do we start using things like shadows to differentiate the different parts of our face? Well, a lot of us like to break down the face into like the planes of the face, right? Or anything like that. And I'm going to give you guys the landmarks that give you those sides of the face really easy based on this technique, okay? If you have your triangle and you draw your mask technique like this, to come up with your basic features. The rest of it becomes actually quite intuitive. This part right here, you're going to split it at the top of the triangle. And you're going to have the upper part of your eyelid, and that's what's going to split your eye. Right? So if we do that here, we get this part of the eyebrow, and we get that separation of the eyelid. And that's considering that the light is from the top. Okay? Get used to one lighting source first, and then get used to the other ones. Whatever shape of the nose that we draw is going to create a shadow a little bit underneath. So whatever shape you draw here, it's going to cast a shadow a little bit underneath itself. This is a cast shadow. These are cast shadows. We're going with the cast shadows first. How is this a cast shadow? This is a cast shadow because your eye socket creates a little bit of an indenture going into your eye. So if a light source is on the top, you have your brow muscle right here that casts the shadow over the top part of your eye. Not the bottom part of your eye, mind you. Maybe the cheekbone has a little bit of a shadow, but it's gonna just block this part of your eye, this part, because it's blocking it, because your eye is a little sunken in to your face. So that's why you get that shadow right here. And it's very easy by just splitting whatever shape you draw at first. At the top of this triangle, you can just split that, and you can also use that as your guideline for your eyes. So that's one of the planes of the face that normally becomes really hard for people to understand. So now let's apply that to a face, and we already did. So what's the next cast shadow that happens on the body? Well, the next cast shadow that happens is normally the jaw. So the jaw is going to cast a shadow on the neck. The neck is going to connect at the bottom of both ears. At the bottom of both ears, you're going to go and you're going to connect to your body like a cylinder. This jaw is going to be in front of this, and it's going to cast a little bit of a shadow depending on the shape of the jaw. That is going to give you the difference between this being in the front and this being in the back. What is happening here though? Let's explain this from the side. So when you draw your shapes for your head, I like to start with a cylinder, right? When you're drawing your jaw going around your shape, this jaw is going to protrude a little. They would hit this part. Hello, hello. What's going on? Can you guys see me? Is everything good? Okay, I think it's good now. Anyways, we were talking about the shape of the head, right? The jaw in itself overlaps a little bit where the neck goes. So if light is hitting from the top, this is in shadows because of this, right? This is just the shadow of the jaw being cast on the neck. So that is why we have a shadow underneath our neck. So now that we understand where most of the cast shadows happen on the face, now think of the other shadows, which are the form shadows. And the form, your cheekbones, the roundness of the side of your face, into lips, the roundness of the shape of your lips, again, your cheekbones, all those little, the soft ones that indicate the gradients of it. And when you start combining both of them, all of a sudden you start getting something that looks really, really cool. So little by little, understanding how these work and understanding the planes of the face, by learning how to guide your drawings and your lines, can give you the ability to learn how to shade things really, really quickly. So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Things like boxes, like cubes and stuff like that, react a little bit different um, than circles because they don't have soft areas, right? So whenever a light isn't hitting it, let's say it's hitting from the top, you would just have different gradations of where the light is hitting. And wherever the light is hitting the least, that is where your shadow would be. Because that just means that that's directly opposing where the light source is. I just realized I used Rod's techniques to recreate one of Sean Galloway's characters. Ha, nice. What if the light comes down and not up? If the light comes from underneath, that's all you do. You just think of the shapes the opposite, right? So if you learn through style, you would be really stumped because you'd be like, oh, I don't know how to lay these. But I'm not teaching you through style, I'm teaching you through shapes. So if you learn how to draw this, let's draw one side from the top, one side from the bottom. We'll have the light source on the top here, and the light source on the bottom here. I'm teaching you how to map this out to have that differentiation. If the light is hitting from the top, we would block in certain elements that don't get hit by the light. Right? If you're going from the top, on the bottom, you just fill in the opposites. And that is essentially how you would light up faces. When you start adding more elements like eyelids and stuff like that, then you have to take each one of those into consideration, right? So in this one, that one would be lit up, but this one would be in shadows. Again, but the actual eyelid would be lit up, and in this case, it would be in shadows. So the bottom of this would be in shades, and then this would be in shade. If you draw things like the mouth, then you draw lips for that character. In this case, the upper lip would be dark, the lower lip would be light with a little bit of a shadow underneath. From underneath, you would have this one as a light source with a little bit of a shadow over the lip, and this one would be dark because it would be hitting from underneath. And as you get better and you realize more surfaces and you realize more angles and stuff like that, you end up getting much better at that, and you can do that from any single side in distinction. But that's just essentially the concept behind how lighting works and why it's so important to understand anatomy and perspective when it comes down to character design. Because even down to the... So happy to see you again. Hey! So, do you like to do hyper realistic stuff? I hate doing hyper realistic stuff. You know why? Because it takes forever. It takes absolutely forever to do it. So, the most I will do when it comes down to realistic stuff, it's just somewhat realistic shading. And that comes down to when I try to actually draw characters really cool, right? When I'm trying to draw like somebody like really silly or trying to actually get like a lot of likeness, I start looking into different details like, you know, like cheekbone height and stuff like that. Like the angles of the face, textures, how old I want to make them, like how like I want to design everything down to like the last little hair. You know, like things like that are really fun to do sometimes. but it's not something that I'm constantly looking to do because it's just not so much fun for me. It's just something that I like to do once in a while because it just takes a long time sometimes. Remember, we color the top up until the middle part right here. This is all shadow because of the eyebrow line. Then it comes to the bottom of the eyelid that has a little bit of shadow. Then this would be light, and then this would be dark. And then this would be a little bit light again. Underneath of the nose would be a little dark. The side of the nose would be a little bit dark. Underneath my mustache would be dark. Maybe the top of my chin would have a little bit of light. And then this whole neck part would just be shadows. And then if I want to add even more detail, I can make everything into a mid-tone by just rubbing it. Right? Now everything's a mid-tone. If I want to get rid of the sidelines and create a more realistic look, I can just go into every part that would be with a line and draw a little bit of darker background so the line disappears. All right, so now those lines are disappearing, and now I can just, anything that would have a shadow, I would just fill in with a little bit more shadow. And little, by eliminating my line work, you end up with a much more realistic drawing, right? The less shadows you have, the less lines you can create, the more real everything's gonna look. And combining your soft shadows with your cast shadows in your anatomy is what leads you to be able to do this. Okay. It doesn't just magically come to you, and it doesn't just magically happen, right? You have to actually go out and look for this. And then you add a little bit of a highlight, and then your drawing looks fucking amazing. Right? Oh, look, it looks so good. It looks like it's like professional drawing and stuff. Oh. So drawings like this, just take into consideration all these elements that we talked about, right? Just taking your hard shadows and your soft shadows and learning where to place them so that you can create proper depth for your drawings. And the more anatomy you learn, the more mapping systems you learn, the more you understand how your body works, that is when you get really good and are able to do this really quick. I drew the weirdest thing. So yeah, like I personally like drawing cartoons like this much more than I like drawing like this. More so because it just has more energy. Like, I don't know, man. Like, there's something about drawing like super silly things really quickly that it just makes me really happy. So in this case, I can draw him like eating like. Awesome. Anytime you guys donate and ask a question, I guess I can gladly answer them like that. That was actually really cool. And that's gonna help me get a new sketchbook for the next Sam. So that's awesome. Dope. Are you guys very laggy? I have a feeling you guys are laggy. It might be just because the stream has gone so long, or my phone might be getting warm. Yeah, I think that might be the phone that's getting warm. Anyways, we've been going on for like 60 seconds, 60 minutes. So I think we will end it now, and then maybe I'll hop on again a little bit later. So hopefully the recording is not gonna be laggy whenever it uploads, so you guys can actually see this live in the little lives tab. And if you guys have any questions, just log in tomorrow and I'll try to make it so you those don't have any lag. Sorry about that, guys. All right, I'll see you guys next time, okay, though? I'll see you guys tomorrow for the free lessons on TikTok, and I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon for another lesson here on YouTube. So keep your questions, and if you guys want to support, you guys know what to do. You guys just have to share my stuff, and if you guys feel like buying my books, that's another option you guys have to be able to support me, okay? Take care. Later. Can you answer a question, though? Purple, pink, or blue? I would probably choose blue out of those. Bye-bye.